Get pull up my notes. You had to start by saying that. Now I'm going to have to edit that out.
Way to go, Ian.
Yeah. If I've already screwed it up. You should keep that.
I should have brought notes. I brought nothing.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I have nothing.
You just need to talk about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need notes for that.
Right?
Not been a linear path, man. But okay.
All right, you ready? Greetings, colleagues. Welcome to the Ivory Attic. I'm Ian Isherwood.
And I'm Kurt Andreessen.
And we are going to have a great show that is not at all topical or relevant.
No, exactly. Yeah, staying away from anything controversial.
We are so lucky to have on our show our colleague Bruce Larson, who is a political scientist here at Gettysburg College. Bruce has his BA in political science from William Patterson College in Wayne, New Jersey, MA in political science from Boston College, and PhD in government from the University of Virginia. What's that expression they have? Wahoo wah? Is that the?
That's correct.
That's the right one. Yeah. From UVA. Bruce has been teaching at Gettysburg College for quite some time, for 20 years, since 2005, rising through the ranks and as a full professor here at the college with a long list of publications to your credit, Bruce. Most of them about money and politics. Definitely not a relevant subject at all. So
we're trying to move away from relevance.
Right.
Just, nice obscure things that no one cares about.
So welcome to the podcast, Bruce.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love the attic here. It was kind of as I pictured it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
yeah.
It feels like it sounds.
Yeah, it feels like a garage attic.
It's perfect. It's perfect, man. It's perfect.
So Bruce, so tell us about your early life. You're from New Jersey, right?
I am from New Jersey and proud of it. It's such a great state, as anybody who's on my Facebook page knows. But I've
read a lot about blueberries.
A lot of blueberries.
Yes, it has fantastic blueberries. What it doesn't have right now are planes or trains, if you're looking to get in or out of there, apparently, since there's a New Jersey transit strike today. But yeah, so I grew up in New Jersey, about 20 miles from New York City. I mainly filled my high school years and a lot of my college years with playing music, so I was not on an academic track at all. And I was not a great undergraduate student, actually, to be honest. I was an okay student, but I wasn't a great student. But I was a political science major. I went to William Patterson originally because they have a great jazz program, and I really was going to do music. And I ended up taking some political science courses and really liking it and thinking, well, I can still do music if I major in something else.
Right.
So I went there. So I graduated when I was like 22, 23. I ended up, I just wanted to get out of New Jersey as much as I like it. And so I ended up moving to Boston with my then girlfriend at the time. And I figured I'd play in some bands up there, but I also got whenever you're playing music, you got to get a job because you typically can't support yourself. And so it's pretty cool. Boston's a great city, and I ended up living there for a long time. But I ended up working at Berklee College of Music, which is a great jazz school. Yeah, it's a fantastic jazz school. So I met a lot of people there. And but interestingly, I also met, had as roommates two Boston University law students.
Okay.
And I was sort of their cool friend. That's how they referred to me. But I was sort of intrigued by their life. They were going to graduate school, went to law school at the time. And so I thought, maybe I'll do this if the music thing doesn't work out. I also lived in Los Angeles. I moved out there for a while to play music. And once again, ended up with my actual paid gig at UCLA Law School. I just worked in the registrar's office there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then when I came back, I moved back to Boston and I worked at Boston University. So I kept, being in these academic settings for my paid job. I was an academic counselor at Boston University.
Oh, okay. That's my undergrad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was an academic counselor. at School of Business right on Com Ave there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it was pretty cool. I don't know how I got the job. They gave jobs out back then. You know what I mean? It's because I'd worked at Berkeley and I'd worked at UCLA, and so I was they thought I had enough that I was with it enough to advise students. But when I was there, I could take courses too, and so I just started taking courses in political science. I actually took a history course with Howard Zinn,
Oh yeah,
right?
the Howard Zinn.
Maybe he's
Yeah.
not like, I don't know. People say, "Oh, he's not a historian; he's more of a social activist." But it was still really interesting. I took a small, it was maybe 9 students in it, called The Politics of History, and it was with him. And that was sort of like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this.
Oh, cool.
And so then I didn't stay at BU. I applied to BC because they had I thought was maybe a better political science program. Did an MA there and then did a PhD at UVA.
Cool.
But so it's always been sort of music, academic work. But I think the real turning point was when I worked at BU.
Oh, cool. What was the delay between when you graduated undergrad and when you actually started the master's program? Like how many years was it?
Let's see. I guess I started the master's program in '86. So it was like 4 years.
Okay,
and that was
yeah.
time spent in Boston
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then also in Los Angeles. I moved out there also with a girlfriend.
Now, were
So-
these different girlfriends
Yes.
that you took it?
and neither of them is my wife now. So. But she knows about them all, so all good.
All right, well, good. Yeah, so this is an expose that we're like...
No.
Okay.
No. So again, though, it's not a real linear path to being an academic, but it was really kind of cool taking the
Yeah.
course with Zen and then taking
That's
these other
awesome.
courses as well.
It's really fascinating to think about you working in the registrar's office during the day and then playing music at night.
Yes.
That's
which
such
what
an
I did.
interesting dichotomy for me to consider.
Yeah.
What's your instrument? Just
I play bass.
Oh,
I play
excellent.
upright
Okay.
bass and I
Okay.
play electric bass as
Excellent.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and Berkeley was such a cool environment to be at because you're surrounded by people playing jazz music.
yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But it also taught me that I probably wasn't good enough to do that. Seriously, I mean that. I mean, these were fantastic players. There are so many jazz people who come out of Berkeley now. And so I was thinking, I got to have a backup plan here.
You're actually the second person we've had on the podcast that has spent some time at Berkeley doing music stuff and
Yeah.
then left and did something else.
Who was the other
Ben
person?
Kennedy.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Kennedy did a
I
year-
didn't know that he had any
Yeah.
kind of Berkeley ties.
Yeah, he did a year. I think he said he did a year.
Mm.
He went to school there for a year. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal musicians
Yeah.
there. These are people who are immersed in it, and this is what they do.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's cool to be there, but I don't think I would have. I think I needed something more kind of stable,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, an academe is the
Yeah,
stable
it's looking
profession.
great right now, man.
You found it.
You found it.
It was stable for a while. Yeah, it was stable, and I continued to play bass too in bands all the way, and I still play bass now, but I don't
awesome.
really do
That's
it
awesome.
enough. I don't have time.
Yeah. What drew you to doing the PhD in political science? What was the thing that really got you?
Well, I'm just, I was a political science major as undergrad, and my undergraduate professors definitely had an impact on me. Howard Zinn and the people that I took, but also the law professors I met at UCLA. I got to be friends with them in part because I played in a jazz band with some of them, and so I got to know them, and they were just really engaged with the world, with law, with politics, with history, and that's just fascinating. You know what I mean? If you're in that, and you guys know it. And so I think just looking around me at what was going on at the time, which at the time seemed somewhat troubling, but
it's funny how perspective changes. Yeah.
It seems so tame now. And so I just thought, the world's full of conflict, and so we have to figure out how to organize conflict in a peaceful way that protects people and so on. So I just kept on thinking about that. And sort of that's what got me into it, I think.
Yeah. And did you when you were doing your PhD, do you do the same stuff that you do now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Although it's funny, I didn't go now I write largely about political parties and campaign finance and Congress. But then when I went there, I originally had gone there because I thought I wanted to study the courts, the
Okay.
judicial system. And what I did is I was doing that. I was taking courses on judicial process and courts and so on. And I started reading about all these political cases like voting rights and campaign finance and so on. And that was really intriguing to me. So I kind of shifted my field a little bit. Even then, still shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've stayed with it since then.
So what drew you to Congress and campaign finance reform?
It's messy.
Yeah.
It's messy. It's the questions are, bordering on intractable sometimes. You know what I mean? Just like there's this whole thing. And campaign finance is kind of the challenge to teaching it is its mind-numbing regulations and court decisions and so on. But a lot of what, people ask me, why do we spend so much here, right? Like part of that is because the Supreme Court considers campaign money speech. And therefore, if if Congress or any state legislature were to enact spending limits on campaign spending, it would be a violation of the First Amendment.
Yeah,
and there's just multiple court cases. This is still going through the courts. So I think, and Congress to me, somebody once said to me, it wasn't to me, it was, but as a Congress scholar, it's sort of where democracy happens in the United States, or should happen. It's Article 1, right? It's Article 1 of the Constitution. There's like 4 times as much text on Congress as there is, for Article 2 or the courts. And so it's really, when the framers wrote the Constitution, they sort of thought about Congress as being the main branch. Yeah, we didn't want a king. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we got away from that. We want representative government. Look at the Virginia plan, right?
Right.
It's like legislative supremacy, right? I think about that often. Like, where would we be right now if we had that?
Right.
Instead of the New Jersey plan by William Patterson, no less, a New Jersey guy. There's one downside to New Jersey, and it was the New Jersey plan. Sorry. I don't bring that up much.
Do you so one thing I always find interesting is one of the things I never have to deal with being a physicist is that no one ever thinks they know what I do. But I feel like in political science, I assume a lot of people assume they know.
Such a great question.
They know as much as you do.
This is such a fantastic question, Kurt. And especially lately, I haven't wanted to let people know. So, for example, you're at the dentist and you're getting your teeth cleaned and they ask you what you do. And if you tell them you're a political science professor, all of a sudden it starts coming out, everything that they think. And so what I've started telling people lately is that I'm a math professor because it shuts down conversations right off the bat. And I don't have to deal with it because it's my job. And I just don't want to have to talk about this all the time. And a lot of it's like, it's not that I don't want to talk to people, but it takes like, yes, come and take my course or read a book. Like, I can't tell
It's all
you.
work. Yeah,
it's all work. And so, it's very difficult now. And it's a tough time during family gatherings because people want to know everything.
Yeah.
And some of this stuff, to be honest, I don't know. As I'm sure I'll make clear on the ChatGPT quiz later.
Yeah. Well, so it's one of these things that, I have a lot of things to say about that because, like, as a historian, it's the same sort of thing, except it's, somebody's uncle or friend down the road that wants to come up to you and stump you and, wants to come up and ask you, well, did you know about this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I didn't know about that because nobody knows about
And they
that.
have their own theory of history or politics.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The real causal driver behind something.
Yeah.
They all got it.
Well, they have thought about it for 5 minutes.
At least. Right. And they did their own research.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. They went on at least 3 websites.
Yeah.
And it's and like oftentimes they approach it by saying, "Oh, I heard you're into history," or "I heard you're into," and it's like it's actually my life's work. Like it's not just being into it,
Right. Yeah.
That's funny.
I heard you're into being a stockbroker. We don't say that to people,
I think you should actually take like the kind of lawyer or doctor approach, which is that you say, listen, like I actually do this hourly, so like if we're going to talk about this, I'm going to have to bill you.
There's
afterwards.
a fee, man.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to take some off that dentist's bill.
Right,
Which you're gonna have to do,
He's like, if we're going to talk about this, you're going to have to cut this because we're both working right now.
That
check from Delta Dental better be bigger.
And it's interesting, right? Like, because political science is not politics, and that's problematic in some ways too. Like, there's this may be apocryphal, I don't know, but apparently a student said, I loved politics, so I got into political science, and I loved politics, so I got out of political science. You know what I mean? Like, it's really the scientific study of politics, and it's hard, and it's a lot of my work is quantitative, and so, you know, and this is true with students. Sometimes they think we're going to come to your classes and it's going to be like one of these talk shows. And it's not what it is. Like, we have theories, we have
society.
data.
Yeah, exactly.
We can do some of that, but you got to know what's going on before you have these sorts of debates. And a lot of that is just, you know, serious research that people do on this. Yeah. And so, you know, I think people are more interested in talking about politics than they are political science.
Sure,
you know?
sure, of course. Yeah.
So it's been hard. In the last few years, it's been pretty hard, as you might
expect.
So
you are the brand new recipient of our Distinguished Teaching Award.
Congratulations.
At Gettysburg College. So
thanks. I am honored. I'm going to say something about that. When they're announcing that award at the faculty meeting every year, I'm always scanning around the meeting, and I could pick like 25 people, including you all, who could get that award. So I'm really humbled by it. Sometimes I think
well deserved from everything.
Definitely well deserved. And it's one of these things I was telling Kurt and kind of preparing for this, is that you are one of those colleagues of ours that I hear from students all the time, annoyingly, about what a great professor you are and how much they love your classes. And
I hear the same about you guys. So to be clear,
well, that's good.
That means those nice 20s,
you heard something about
I've been
you.
Passing out.
Speaking of money, but so did you always think you wanted to teach at a liberal arts college, or did you?
Yeah. I mean, like, well, we know when we come here too, right? We're like, okay, can I survive at an R1 university? Can I publish this much? But also, do I want to do that? And I don't necessarily want to be at a place like where all you're doing is churning out stuff and you have research assistants and you don't get enough time with your students. And I like the idea of teaching at a liberal arts college because so many professors had an impact on me. And I figured that was really cool. Like, as much as the research I do, what I can bring to the classroom can be impactful for students as well.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah. So
do you like, I mean, you mentioned before about like the current climate. Like, do you, I'm curious, like, is it more fun or less fun to teach?
Totally less. Totally less.
You're like, I actually find it really calm. Like,
yeah, no, it's less fun because, I mean, first of all, you're kind of reading these articles saying things that don't necessarily apply anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
And so for a lot of the time, I mean, there's always been problems in American politics. Anybody who studies history, I mean, you know, our political system has always, like, people always think about, you know, for example, the 50s and 40s as being good, but seriously, look at the South, right? Look at how many people we have disenfranchised. So it's just really hard right now because we're trying to sort of update stuff on the fly.
Right.
Number one. But secondly, you know, and again, you don't want to be a partisan in the classroom, but you got to also call it like it is, right? And so the stuff that's happening right now, you know, the closing of USAID and so on, you know, a lot of that is arguably unlawful in Congress's job. So I can't not say that, but I have to try to say it without being a partisan. Yeah. So I feel like I'm prefacing a lot of my things by saying I don't want to be a partisan here. You know? And so it's been really difficult. And I want to say one last thing. We're always kind of scrambling now because there's been, you know, a lot of breaking of norms and so on. And so there's always this question of whether this is lawful. And so we're kind of scrambling down these rabbit holes to figure out whether it is. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it was easier teaching when politics was more stable.
Yeah. When I imagine too, right? Like, I think part of what is unknown, right, is whether or not, to some extent, this is let's say a blip, and then there will be a correction back to what you have always taught, or whether this is kind of a new thing that will continue for the next 50 years, the next 100 years, whatever.
Yeah, and that's where I admire I just read history now because we know the answer to these questions. You know what I mean? And I really am reading a lot more history now. And we don't know that.
Yeah.
One thing I can pretty safely say is that it's not self-correcting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's never, we've never. There's a book by a couple of political scientists recently, and it was really interesting. So they've talked about, obviously the U.S. has been polarized before, right? But there were always these kind of off-ramps in that we had a very decentralized media, we had very decentralized political parties, and very decentralized interest groups. And none of those things are true anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's been a kind of gutting of local media, and a lot of people get their news from national media sources now.
Right.
And so politics there was the old expression that all politics is local. It's the opposite now.
Yeah.
I was just as a story, I was handing out literature I live in Frederick County for a friend who was running for the county council, and he was running as a Democrat, and I was just handing stuff out. I was working at, one of the polls one day for him. He's a friend. And somebody said, "Are you kidding? I'm never, after what you guys did to Kavanaugh, I'm not going to vote for this guy." Like, he had a really national frame about, a county commissioner whose job is going to be basically land use. And
Right. It has nothing to do. Yeah.
But there's a lot of evidence that people are seeing politics through a national lens and a national frame so much more now.
Yeah.
And so where are those off ramps this time?
Right. Yeah.
Oof. Sorry. I didn't mean to bring us all down.
Right. Well, the great comfort of history is usually it requires a catastrophic event or something like that to course correct. So who knows?
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, well, right. And that's the thing.
Well, and it's crazy because when you were doing your PhD, there was Congress at least seemed functional and powerful.
Yeah.
And now it just is so different, right? I mean, from what I've heard, you can't, the old days of people, Democrat, Republican, whatever, getting together and having drinks in the evening and just socializing with each other, that doesn't really happen anymore.
That's over.
Yeah. So how do you have a functional democracy if Congress is, so polarized that it can't legislate?
Right. And this ties into some of the fundraising stuff I study too, right? Because some members are doing a lot of fundraising online now. And the best way to generate funds online is to say outrageous things. And you know what I mean? So you have all this fundraising happening.
Does that work for podcasts?
You're right.
We could experiment. But it really, that's how, so you have some of these members who don't care at all about lawmaking, and they certainly don't care about bipartisanship or kind of solving problems. They, in fact, solved political problems are no longer useful politically. And so there are people who don't want to solve problems because it's great to fundraise.
Right, because by definition, once you've solved it, you can't fundraise or campaign off of it anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and people argue that's one of the reasons that Trump didn't want the bipartisan immigration bill last summer, because then it removed a great problem for him.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a really bad political system when the incentives are not to solve problems, but rather to fundraise and create conflict.
Do you have? I mean, I know, just in talking to some of the political science. I mean, it seems like there's some problems that have obvious solutions and some that do not have. But you kind of can't get the political will to do it.
Yeah.
And there are others where it's just not obvious how you would ever do it. Do you feel the campaign finance? Is there a solution to it?
No, not really. Not with the current court. Where to even start on this research?
Sorry.
Well, no, it's interesting. There are states and localities doing interesting things. So, for example, Seattle right now, for every citywide election, city council, everything, they give every resident in Seattle $4 $25 vouchers that they can then give to candidates.
Okay.
And to take these vouchers, you have to voluntarily agree to spend no more than that.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's interesting that Seattle's voters passed this program on a ballot initiative, and it's funded by increased property taxes that they decided. They went to the polls and said, we're going to raise our property taxes to try to do this. But it's interesting. The evidence, and it's a pretty new program. I think it was 2017 to start. The evidence is not like a lot of people just don't turn in their vouchers.
Right.
Right? For the same reason they don't vote.
Right.
They were interviewing some people on it. One woman said, just give me the $100, like buy my groceries. And so, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So it's even, and the program I think is working better right now, but it's an interesting, innovative program. What it doesn't stop though is super PACs that can go in and spend money independently attacking candidates. And there's nothing, as long as we have the current core, there's nothing we can do about that.
Nothing you do about that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's unlimited money. You can raise the money from wherever and you can spend it without limit. And so, and what's happening, like for members of Congress, they're always afraid they're going to be attacked by one of these super PACs. So what they do is raise tons of regular money just to, as a defense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so right now, somebody told me that members are spending, I don't know, 4 to 5 hours a day raising money in Congress.
Wow.
They leave. You're not allowed to raise money from Capitol Hill, but the party's offices are right across the street, and they go and they dial for dollars. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And so there's not enough time even being put into legislation.
I was gonna say 4 or 5 hours is a lot of hours of a work day.
Right, and they work at night too, and they're all over the place, But still, when you're raising that kind of money. I think about it. Even in Pennsylvania, what did Casey raise? Something like $25 or $30 million, and so did McCormick. And that's not even including any of the super PAC money that came in that floods these states that have close races.
Yeah.
So the money thing is deeply problematic, and it's unclear. I mean, you have these things like what's going on in Seattle,
Right.
but to do that at a national level,
Yeah,
there's actually a bill that experiments with this, H.R. 1. It's passed the House when the Democrats were in control of the House. It had a lot of voting rights stuff in it, but hard to see it, how it would work administratively or if it would work.
Right. Yeah. And it seems like too. I mean, it seems like there could be some weird. Again, unaligned incentives when people can spend money that isn't theirs to
Oh, totally. Well, and the plan, like this, the idea is that you're going to give people vouchers. It gives candidates an incentive to reach out to people they normally wouldn't reach out to go to neighborhoods where people have these vouchers.
Yeah.
And say, look. Right. So in theory, like it could work.
Yeah. That's cool.
We'll have to see how a couple of years down the road that kind of thing happens and, where we go with it.
Yeah.
Do you remember when McDonald's used to have those coupons? That's what it's making me think of, the old McDonald's coupons.
Yeah.
Maybe if you did the Monopoly thing.
I really totally. I'm trying to find former students who live in Seattle because I want some vouchers.
Right.
I want vouchers, but if I get them, it means the person didn't
use them right.
But I still want them. I want expired vouchers so I can use them for my class and hand them out.
I like this idea.
And I'm also trying to figure out like how this would work in South Central Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, there was a political it was a Supreme Court justice, right? I think it was Louis Brandeis who said, states are laboratories of democracy, and I think that's true for localities too. Yeah. So you can try a lot of things at the local level. A lot of states and localities are trying ranked choice voting, for example. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so you can. The one great thing about federalism, right, is you can try a bunch of this stuff and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Without doing it on a full-scale national basis yet.
Oh, cool. Well, should we ask our question?
I think we should.
Yeah. Oh, I'm afraid. Are these the ChatGPT questions?
Not that question. No, I was thinking the other question.
Oh, okay.
No, our last question for the interview.
Oh.
It's been a while since you've done this.
So what brings you joy?
What brings me joy?
Mm-hmm.
Bourbon.
That might be the best answer we've gotten.
You have won the podcast.
Okay. My awesome colleagues, for one. Really, we teach at a great place. I love our students. Our students have changed, but they're fantastic. But, my family. I love my family. I have a fantastic family. I have a daughter who's 24, just graduated from college, making her way in the world.
Yeah.
And so just being with them and doing a lot of stuff with them.
That's fun.
And they kind of can. We have in our household, thanks to my wife, who's way smarter than I am, a 9 o'clock blackout on politics. We don't talk about politics after 9 o'clock.
I like this.
I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So music too. I listen to music all the time.
Yeah.
I go to the gym and I run, and I
that's
put
awesome.
on jazz, and it just it's transformative.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was the easy question.
Uh-oh.
Now it's time.
For ChatGPT.
It's time for the hard ones.
Oof.
We're doing.
It's time for a quiz, which is
Okay,
called.
this is going to be really problematic if I get all these wrong and my students.
Yeah.
hear
No.
it.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a fake quiz, so
Yeah.
It's fake.
it's kind of fake. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, ChatGPT created it. Sorry, Dean Chat created
Dean
it.
Chat.
Dean Chat.
We call it Chad Gepetti in our household because it does need a name.
It does need it. Yeah.
It does, and I was just reading an article in the New York Times yesterday, I think, that was about students getting really mad that their faculty members are using ChatGPT to like create
Oh, yeah,
PowerPoint
yeah.
slides and create lesson plans and things like that.
Yeah, imagine that, huh?
Yeah, right.
Grading their papers
Right.
that were written.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think this is actually the perfect setup. As I hope this is where we eventually get to, is that the students can use it to write it, we can use it to grade it,
Yeah.
and they can see
We just
how well
we
it's
just
done.
monitor
Yeah,
the
no,
whole
exactly.
thing.
We just sit back and watch the whole thing happen.
Yeah.
So what's this segment called? Did you know?
Thank you.
Yeah, because you can't say it.
I
and have
can't.
to say
No,
it. It's copyright.
I was waiting for it to come.
So we have a couple questions that are coming from Dean Chat about campaign. Basically, a quiz for somebody who studies money and politics. So the first question is, it's a multiple choice. So
Oh God.
what's the most common cause of campaign finance reform?
All right.
Is it A, a genuine desire to fix democracy?
Sorry.
B, scandal fatigue? Or C, losing the last election?
That's really interesting. There's actually not a straightforward answer to this question because people argue about it. For a long time, the idea was that scandal was the catalyst for reform. And I think, like, if you look at the original reforms in the 70s, like it was the whole Nixon Watergate
Yeah.
thing. There was, tapes of Nixon, like, saying to the dairy industry, yeah, we're good with price supports as long as you give us $250,000, right? So there's that. But there's been this guy, Ray LaRoche, who's written on this, who said it's more partisanship, like, that parties who feel like they're on the losing side of it will try to push for it. So it could be either one, but Chat would probably say scandal.
So Chat actually says losing the last election. So
Really?
Losing the last
yeah.
election.
Yeah, so people lose elections, I guess. Huh?
I guess.
Yeah. So we got to ask that. That's interesting. Like, is Bob Casey out there pushing for reform now? Yeah, I think that a lot of members of Congress who lose their last election go to lobbying firms because it tends to be more lucrative than pushing for, good government stuff.
I mean, that's my plan if I ever get fired, is
Sure.
to go to someplace and make more money.
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And they're just looking for us, Kurt. They're looking for us, man.
Actually, our plan is consulting. Isn't it?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna go into
Yeah, we're gonna
Consulting
Yeah, we're
is
going to go to
fantastic.
higher ed consulting.
Yeah, the college can hire us.
Well, that's
Can I
exactly
join the
it.
firm?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, actually, yeah.
Definitely, you can become a principal.
Yeah, I would love that. It could operate right out of here, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's the Ivory Attic Limited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
exactly.
This is
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, we got this. Okay, how does a bill become a law?
Oh, gosh.
A,
Does he have to sing it? That's it.
A, through debate, amendment, and consensus. B, via schoolhouse rock. Or C, after being added as a 2,000-page rider to a highway funding bill.
That's a great question. I don't know what Dean GPT would say. And I'm going to... This is funny. You're taking these multiple choice quizzes, and I'm pointing to the literature. There's this one, Barbara Sinclair, who wrote this great book called Unorthodox Lawmaking, about how this kind of like debate committee and so on just doesn't happen anymore. And they tend to be these gigantic omnibus bills with all sorts of stuff in them. So maybe I'll go with that one.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep,
yeah.
that's the correct
I
answer.
was really hoping you were going to say that there's a really big book on Schoolhouse Rocks.
No, but we could use it as a kind of point of departure. You know what I mean? It should be campaign finance rock. I have a friend who was until last year the general counsel for the Senate Armed Services Committee, and that's sort of a must-pass bill. And he said that just everything comes
Everything just
into
got
it.
on it,
Everyone wants their stuff in that bill because they know that it's going to pass.
Now, this isn't part of the quiz. I don't mean to deviate, but I just realized, I mean, you have this strong music background
Yeah.
and the political background. Schoolhouse Rocks is quite old at this
It
point.
is.
You could do an
make a new
updated,
one.
Like a jazz version
Yeah,
or a heavy
exactly.
metal version. A metal version.
A metal version would be awesome.
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
this is good.
I'm just,
I never thought I was going to come away from this with ideas.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you could use
About,
Dean
so
Chat
far, we
for
have
the
two. We
graphics.
have consulting,
Yeah,
Right, yeah,
consulting.
so-
and then we have the new
Yeah.
version of Schoolhouse Rocks.
Yeah.
No, this is perfect.
This is
I love
great.
this.
Yeah, the metal version. That's the right
The
genre.
metal version, I think, is
Yeah. Okay, final question. What's the scientific?
What's the score so far?
Did I get the last one right? you
Yeah,
think?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right,
So
sorry.
I got a 50 so far.
So, what's the scientific term for the relationship between money and policy making? Is it A, kleptonomics, B, cashocracy, or D, lobbyosis?
I've never heard of any of them. What was the first one?
Kleptonomics, cashocracy, or lobbyosis?
Is there an all of the above? I would say I'm going to go, given the current climate, I'm going to go with number one.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So,
Great.
yeah, you passed the quiz.
passed the quiz. Good.
Yeah,
Excellent. I did it.
congratulations.
That
Yeah.
means I
Well
can
done, well
continue
done, well
teaching
done.
at the
You can-
college.
yeah,
This is so cool. I thought I was done with.
I mean, it's the peak of your career. Just so you know. I mean, that's what everyone.
Well, that's
says.
what everyone says. I mean, everyone says.
It is to me, man. This is just fantastic.
Yep. So we'll take a little bit of a break, or do you want to go straight into it?
Yeah, no. Let's do a little bit of a break, and then we'll and then we'll go.
Okay. Welcome back to the Ivory Attic. We are here with Bruce Larson, political science professor at Gettysburg College, and we're moving on to our next segment, which is What's Your Style?
Oh,
And this is where we ask our guests what informs their personal sense of style. Style can be interpreted broadly in a lot of different directions, right?
absolutely.
Oh, wow. I just doing the minimal possible.
Well, here's
Like,
here's a-
is it like how I dress?
Yeah, well, like it can be. Yeah.
Yeah, like I got to be able to get up and just get stuff and not think about it.
Now
So I don't have a lot of colors in my wardrobe, for example. And my colleagues kid me about that. Like probably have 15 blue check shirts.
now does
And
this
this, which is also
change
blue.
when you're playing jazz?
Well, okay. I don't really play jazz that much because I'm not good enough to. I play some. I try to play some of it. No, because I don't play in any band. If I played
Okay.
in a band, like when I played in a rock band in Los Angeles.
Okay.
That was quite different stylistically, as you might imagine. Those pictures are not being released. For
Yeah, I was going to say, no, not really. But you could verbally describe it.
Well,
I feel like
we were just kind of a glam type band.
Oh, wow.
Oh yes. This is a-
We played in clubs in Los Angeles and like leather pants and makeup and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was bad. We were awful though. We were, and no doubt. And that's when I really started to think I got to find something else.
Yeah.
you know. And it was interesting. Like when I left Los Angeles, there were so many bands out there that you had to pay to play in clubs. They weren't paying you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
And
crazy.
but it was still a great experience being in that world for a
Yeah,
little bit.
so I'm just envisioning this moment where it's like really hot in the club and you got the leather pants and you're like, man, I could be doing something else right
Yeah, right. No, exactly.
What the hell? And we're not getting paid a lot. And people don't seem very interested. You know, no, it's no fun. It's no fun at all, actually. And yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I always had the university gig on the side. And so I always thought that that's just such a more comfortable job. Maybe with some of the same performative elements.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like
Yes.
it's a different stage.
It's a different stage, but still a stage.
And you don't need
Absolutely.
eyeliner?
Yeah. Well,
Or,
I mean,
you
depends on
could
what
do
you're
it.
trying to
Right,
do.
you don't have to have it. Right. But I don't need the leather pants. I just need this.
Yeah,
It took one whole layer of concern off. You know what I mean? Like my clothes are way easier to get now.
Yeah. Right.
I don't need earrings and stuff. Yeah.
I'm really curious. Actually, I don't know if I mean, I assume there are people who study this, but I've always been curious about how actually like the political like dress has actually like the dress of politicians.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like keeps morphing.
It's gotten worse.
It's well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Well, you remember when everybody was outraged that President Obama wore a tan suit in the Oval Office, and now we have Elon Musk in there with God knows what on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there is, I'm sure, but I think most people dress pretty much the same. I guess I don't know. I mean, it's changed because there are more women in Congress, for example.
Right.
So that's changed.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see when this current generation kind of moves into things.
Yeah.
You
I feel like
know?
there's a lot more shirt sleeves. I see a lot more shirt sleeves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that has to be a moment, like when you're addressing the people, there's a moment when you take the jacket off and
And Jim
become
Jordan,
part of the people, right?
Jim Jordan, who is a Republican from Ohio, right, a really conservative. He's never wears a jacket.
Yeah.
Never has a blazer on. He always has a tie and a shirt on now.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to be the work guy.
Well, actually,
work guy.
our current one of our current senators was like that was kind of famously.
Yeah, true. Forgot about him.
Had his big sweatshirts.
Yeah, his hoodies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. And I think there's still enough kind of decorum on Capitol Hill and the sense of propriety that you shouldn't be wearing that, you shouldn't be doing this, and it's generational, I'm sure. And not everybody can get away with what he's doing, and what he does.
Yeah, it's funny to think about what would have happened if a woman would have done the same.
Absolutely. Oh, gosh.
Right? Like, just shows up in a tracksuit.
Oh,
like,
totally. Yeah. No, there would be condemnation. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a really interesting point, right? Like, campaigns are gendered, right? Women run and like, they get picked on for what they wear.
Right.
And for the most part, that doesn't happen to men.
Yeah.
Maybe to a fair man it does.
Right, sure. But he also is far outside of the norm.
Right.
And he also still does it, right? It's not like he didn't stop.
Yeah, he still does. I'm not sure that he wears a suit at all now. He's always got the thing.
Yeah.
He's really changed a lot, too. We'll have to see what happens with him next time around.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though. There's a good book there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
It's not for me.
Look at that. Look at that. A book, a consulting gig, and a new Schoolhouse Rocks. This is it has to be the most productive episode
This has delivered.
Right.
This podcast has delivered across the board, man.
Well, cool. Well, I think we know what that means once we've done that amount of great work.
I think it's time for Kurt's Cocktail Corner.
All right. Well, let's take a break first because I don't want to go straight in.
All right. I got to get you some ice, too.
Yeah, well, because I was going to say 'cause I don't have any cocktails made.
All right. Take a little bit of a break then. Welcome back to the Ivory Attic. We're here with Bruce Larson, our distinguished professor from Gettysburg College of Political Science, and we have a cocktail in front of us, Kurt.
We do. So Bruce, what's your big thing that you study?
I study how we pay for elections.
Right, and in particular, soft money.
That's one of the things I study. Right,
which is what the name of our cocktail is, and so. I didn't know you were a bourbon fan beforehand. I'm really glad that's what I went with.
Is that bourbon in here? Yeah, I love
it's
bourbon.
got some bourbon in there.
I do like
it
bourbon.
does. And we'll talk more about that. But let's have a
have a
drink while it's
taste.
still ready to go.
All right,
this is fantastic, man. This is the real. I mean, there are so many benefits of the podcast, but oh, this is awesome. Oh. This is lovely. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, so again, I really concentrate on the soft idea of it because it has
It
kind
is
of a,
very delicate.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the idea.
It's delightful.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a cross between I originally was going to make actually a riff on a White Lady, which is a gin-based drink that has citrus and some egg whites. But then I actually realized I wanted, especially since you tend to do American politics.
I do, yeah.
I said, well, obviously we have to get bourbon in there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. It's a drink of American
I
politics.
was going to say it's a drink of American politics. And so so this is kind of a cross between a whiskey sour and a White Lady. So it has bourbon in it. It has some lime juice or some lemon juice, some a little bit of some Cointreau or I actually use triple sec in this case. And I also added just a little bit. You're never going to pick it up, but I added a tiny bit of yellow chartreuse because it's very fancy and expensive, and I thought that goes in line with the whole idea of
This is just
of the thing.
fantastic.
And then, of course, just to cap it off, to really put a hat on a hat, it then, of course, has gold leaf. Layered,
top of it.
layered on top of it.
I love that. That just rings soft money. It's soft money through and through.
The egg white is there to make it soft. That's
to make it delicate.
It is soft. It has a real soft, delicate flavor to it.
That's the idea behind it. Well, so Bruce, you mentioned that that you like bourbon. Do you have a favorite one?
I usually just drink Maker's Mark, but I don't know that much about it. Somebody gave me a bourbon called Bullet.
Yeah, Bullet.
I think, and it was also really good.
Yeah, Kurt and I were drinking that last night.
Well, no, that's not true. You were drinking that.
Oh, I was drinking.
I was drinking. I was drinking Maker's.
Is there one? Is there one I should be drinking that I don't know about?
All right, I want to hear Ian's hot take on this first, and then.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's always another bourbon that you can try.
All right. So, what would you recommend that I try?
So I usually just go for the old standards. Like, I'm not that adventurous. Like Kurt and I both like the whole Four Roses line. So
okay.
Yeah.
So
good.
they're standard, but then their Four Roses Select we just had on our fishing trip,
nice.
which is quite nice.
Oh, good.
Um,
I will remember that.
so their whole line is pretty good, but there's a gazillion bourbons out there.
I know. I'm really bad at trying new things.
Yeah.
I don't change my clothing style. I stick to the bourbon that I always drink. And the only reason I've tried this Bullet bourbon, is that how it's pronounced?
Bullet, yeah.
Is because somebody gave me a bottle of it. I'm like, oh, this is good.
Yeah, so we tend to, in our household, we buy a bottle of it once a year, usually around commencement, because we like to toast the class, the Gettysburg College class, with Bullet bourbon because it's our mascot.
Smart.
So, yeah.
Excellent.
And my wife and I are both Bullets, so we're both
Yeah.
alumni.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good. I hadn't realized that connection. Yeah.
I will say, just for me, I find the subtle differences between, and this again, just a personal thing, I find the subtle differences between whiskey very frequently not worth it as far as price point goes.
Yeah.
I tend to get whatever's on sale at the state store, which is
interesting.
like a wild turkey. Four Roses is fine.
My father-in-law drinks wild turkey.
Yeah.
But it's been, I have to say, I would usually drink beer and wine. And about a couple of years ago, we had some kind of single malt whiskey at our house. And I thought it was really good. We had Char Wise over one day, and I remember him drinking a lot of it. Sorry. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but anyway, I thought it was good.
We can bleep out his name.
He'll be happy about that. Anyway, but I just started drinking bourbon because it had more bite to it. I realized I didn't want something that smooth, and it's also really expensive. This single malt stuff.
The single malt stuff is very expensive.
It's really expensive, and I realized.
Speaking of economics, I mean, that's because of the tariffs. The first round of Trump tariffs hit the single malts hard, and now second round possibly even harder. So.
Right, and they're so expensive to begin with. So I realized that having something a little bit more bite to it was kind of nice, which kind of brought me into the bourbon.
Have you tried rye?
No, I've tried it a little bit, but I don't. I'm sort of in the bourbon time
Okay.
cycle right now. But would you recommend that?
Well, yeah, because I think it. I mean, it has a little bit more of that bite.
Okay.
It kind of hits you a little harder.
And some bourbons have a higher rye percentage to them. So
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
Like,
Yeah, see, I'm-
like Old Forester, I think is one of those that has.
Oh yeah.
That's a more rye forward kind of bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody will have to give me a bottle.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work it. Well, okay. Hey, actually, that's good. Anyone who's listening to this, and if if you live near Frederick or on
Yeah, and if the
Gettysburg
bourbon
campus,
industry in general wants to sponsor us,
absolutely,
we would
absolutely.
we would welcome that.
We would welcome it. We also would welcome just personal donations of bottles of bourbon.
Yeah, and we've name dropped enough brands that that's how soft money works. Or
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I
this
feel
is
like
how-
you
this
guys
is
got reach here.
yeah,
There should be some bourbon coming in. Cases. You'll have to clear out a little section of the attic
so
here.
We'll make sure one comes your way as well. Well, I think we've done it there.
yeah. So any final thoughts, Bruce?
I just think this is fantastic. You guys do a really wonderful podcast that people need right now. And I'm thankful to you for doing it. I'm thankful to have for having me on too. It's really great. You are both awesome colleagues, and I'm thankful for that. That's, again, Kurt and I were talking during the break about what great jobs we have.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because of our students, but it's because of our colleagues, and we get to wake up on Monday and write and study what we like to study.
Absolutely.
Like, who could beat that? And it's not even afternoon. We're having a cocktail.
That's exactly and
And it's Friday.
And Ian and I actually write this down as our scholarship. So
Yeah.
we're actually working right now.
This is
So we figured this out, Bruce.
this is outstanding. You guys got this. Terrific. No, I have no more. Just thank you very much, and cheers to you both.
Oh well, thank you, and
Well,
cheers
thank
to you
you.
too. So we've done it again. Another
Once again.
good episode. So
Absolutely.
so you want to take us out?
No, let's see. How about you do it?
Okay, you can find us on all types of social media. We're also on Blue Sky now because I know a
Oh,
lot of
I love that one.
Yeah, so a lot of academics have migrated from the formerly Twitter X to Blue
Yeah.
Sky, which seems to be a much more positive platform, I think.
Yeah, I love that.
Totally.
So
Yeah,
we're
we'll
on
look for
there
you
as
all
the
there.
Ivory Attic. So look for us. We're on Facebook as well. And we're on Instagram as the Ivory Attic. So feel free to message us and interact with us on social media.
Absolutely.
And other than that, Kurt, I think I just got to say that I'm Ian Isherwood and you're.
And I'm Kurt Andreessen.
And thanks for rummaging through the Ivory Attic with us.